Good afternoon. Let's call the Board of County Commissioners meeting to order on October 7th, 2024. And we will begin with citizen input. Is there anyone in the room that wants to make a comment? I don't think you do, Glenn. You do? Yeah. I don't see anyone in the room that's filled out a blue form. Is there anyone online that would like to make a comment today? Brenda, do you see anyone? No? Okay, all right, so then let's go to agenda item number 1. We have a presentation from our Four Rivers Vector Control District Annual Work Program. So you want to step up or sit down at the table and introduce yourselves, and thank you so much for joining us.
All right, I'm Miles Boland, Operation Manager for Rivers Vector.
I'm Sierra Decoff, the Office Manager.
Rodney Decoff, Board Chair.
Thank you all for joining us. So I think we've allocated you 30 minutes.
I don't know that we'll need the full 30 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah, so I guess it's been a year already. That was quick. We
Especially when you're
definitely,
busy.
yes, we learned a lot and we were definitely busy. But anybody that doesn't know, we manage a 24 square mile district in Sun River area, in between Burgess Road, Lapine, and Benham Falls Day Use area. We do golf courses, public land, private land, any standing water within that area, all for treating mosquitoes with only the purpose of reducing human-borne diseases through mosquitoes, not pest control or anything like that. It's disease prevention and lowering the risk. That's pretty much it. So on our update, we kind of compared it to last year since this was our first season as us in charge under new management, to compare the year previous. Whereas last year, larvicide crews, including a helicopter, we treated 238 acres. And this year with me and one other guy, no helicopter, but by hand, we treated 676 acres. Adulticide last year with one fog truck driver that he couldn't even keep employed really. 27,734 by truck. This year, 53,242. So almost every measurable thing that we have, we did more than double than any previous year that we have recorded. We worked very hard to make up for the previous years, to make sure that we were getting as much done as possible. We finally have a full crew. We didn't fly through employees this year. We had employee retention. We have 2 new fog truck drivers that are completely certified. One is at the end of his training. Hopefully, as far as we know, we should have employee retention through the next year. Almost everybody has guaranteed a return. So establishing the foundation of the district, of having those important positions filled and not spending a good portion of the season looking for those employees, or worse off, training them for weeks at a time and then them saying, never mind, I don't
Wasn't what I dreamed of, right?
Yeah, so other than that, we West Nile cases, Oregon had 14 total West Nile cases this year. No birds, no horses, no humans, only mosquito pools. 5 counties in Oregon, all on the eastern side. Jackson County, Morrow County, Baker County, Umatilla, and the one that I missed, Malheur. And the highest pool out of any of those was 4. So pretty low West Nile numbers for Oregon, and only in the pools. We did trap in Oregon for the first reported time, I believe, Aedes aegypti. And they're a very rare mosquito this close to Oregon, let alone in Oregon. I'm pretty sure they're responsible for the absolute majority of human-borne diseases. Aedes aegypti is a very nasty, disease-riddled mosquito, but they also die in the cold. So Oregon is usually free of them. Other than that, we communicated with the public this year through radio. The website that has been completely redone works so good now with phone calls, complaints online, and even walk-ins were all less than a quarter of the seasons previously. Even though there's a few patches in the district that seem like the worst place on earth, it was better than it's ever been. We wrapped up the best season that we had ever had. So there are a few locals that don't believe that, but I assure them it was better than it has ever been. Yeah, it went really well, and being able to work in a place like that with people that are all getting along and working well and not having the old management situation going on was very helpful and very nice.
Well, yeah, I'm a resident of the district and I've worked with everybody here, and thank you very much for that service in our community. I know we've gone through mosquito season and then bee season and then fly season. Now it's all over after these freezing mornings, but
Yeah,
you guys are just doing mosquitoes. Yeah, just being ready to roll in the spring, I guess, is the next step, you know, just the equipment, the staff, just like you mentioned, hopefully everybody's gonna come back and certified. I know there was moments that it perceived that the fog trucks weren't out as much, or I don't know, I don't know how to gauge it or whatever, but as commissioners, we get those calls too. You get your butt out here and get them.
Mhm.
It's like, oh, no, that's a different district, different than us. So yeah, we're all working together on this every year for sure. So thank you very much for what you're doing. I want to make sure it's a happy, healthy district.
yes, you're very welcome.
The staff and the board, some Rodney and I have known each other for a long time, but just making sure the board's just kind of rocking and rolling. And one of the things that had come up recently is, budget committee. We have a budget committee for the board of commissioners, the equal amount of citizen members. So the board could have 5 board members and 5 citizen members. And I'd be an advocate to get that next person on there. So, hey, you're more interested in this, or you were very engaged last year by complaining about mosquitoes. Why don't you come see how this thing works? So I'm just saying that, I will be an advocate for that. We'll look for those budget members for them.
Okay,
Perfect, thank you.
that you mentioned the bees too. I forgot to say that we've made some big efforts on connecting with them as well, instead of the way it's been in the past where, oh, you have bees, write down the address, post-it note on the pile of stuff in the desk, whatever. Our fog truck drivers now actively go to your address.
So you're
meet
referring
you
to
in
bees
person.
that you want to protect?
Protect, yes,
Yeah, I'm
and-
referring to the wasp that we don't.
Yeah, no, not the ones we don't want, the ones that we do want, the
Yeah.
important ones. We will, we go right to your house, we look at your setup, we see everything you got. We have them all on a contact list. If we're fogging anywhere near your place, we get a hold of you in advance and say, cover your bees, put them to bed, we're fogging that area tonight. We don't want any harmful things happening to any beneficial insects at all.
So you're talking about bees in a.
Yeah,
Honey
people
bees,
that actually
yeah.
keep bees, yeah. The wild ones, once the sun goes down and it's dark, they're pretty safe from the fog. They go sit down, they, sleep overnight. They should be unaffected. But if they're in a bee box in your backyard and the fence is 12 feet away, when we drive by that road, if you cover them up or just have a heads up or whatever, yeah.
Well, as I say, we found this requirement to meet annually recently, and you just hadn't even done it in the past, so this is the
Yeah.
second year.
Add that to the list, everything that
Yeah.
hasn't been done in the past. We
We're
are,
getting a little light on the great service, so as I say, we're in a time where. Somebody will complain online and it just gets spinning all by itself, right? It's like,
Yeah.
well, let's get facts, let's get firsthand knowledge, and that's what you're providing today. You're saying that, the coverage and the acres treated, are phenomenal right now.
yeah,
Is to say that one little. Whatever, some back road or neighborhood and somebody starts complaining and then it just goes downhill. It's just like the
yeah.
perception is gone, so we gotta be careful and work together on that.
Did you get the results from our last year's stream bed samples? They were all negative, right?
They're all like,
Okay, yeah, so this spring we'll do it again. Last spring we did it right before the season, but we do stream bed samples in the Deschutes River, 5 locations spread out throughout the district. We mail them in to be tested for residual pesticide hanging out in the soil. Anything that could build up over time or become harmful to the river or its ecosystem. And all good. Everything was good. No over treatment, no wrong product, nothing like that, no impacts on the environment. So that's another positive note that we had.
That's a requirement.
Great, yeah, closing the loop.
So did you ever have a report that wasn't positive?
Not in our
No.
history, no, not that I
Okay.
know of. But
So what are you gonna tell us next year? If you guys doubled what you did last year, are you gonna triple next year?
we're gonna shoot for more every year and it's all dependent on the water, cause there's some years where it's so dry. That we just drive around literally standing like this in the woods for 15 minutes and no mosquitoes. We go to another spot. And then this year, I don't know what happened to the water master. He might have fell asleep for a couple weeks, but the river level was higher than I have personally ever seen it, and it was that way for over half of the season. It was just, and then normally the water level will come up. It'll fill the wetlands, and then when it drops back down and gets below the bank, the water will stay, to breed mosquitoes. Then we can treat that. This year, standing in the marsh and the grass, you can look down and the water is just flowing from one side to the other. So we will not just spray, even though there's a marsh there. We're not gonna spray any of our pesticides in that water to just be washed right out the other end into the river, and then that stream bed sample comes back as a fail.
There, I know that in the Little Deschutes system, there was, a really substantial,
Flood.
melt off,
Yeah.
maybe, I can't remember if it was rain on snow, but there was some things that caused.
Yeah, whatever it
Some
was
substantial flooding.
flowing.
uh,
And Sun River from one side to the other is about as flat as this table, except for the little hills, but those wetlands are big, wet, and wide. We also had, from the beginning of this season, we were having more larvae in the water than I have ever seen per dip, whereas on average, in our worst years, we'll have upwards of 150 to 200 mosquito larvae in a single 2-cup dip of water in the whole swamp. And this year we were finding well over 500 per dip. So if we would have not done anything, yeah, you don't know that. That was bad.
Would have been 5 seasons.
Yes,
Well, I hope that through your communications and also just through seeing you all out there that.
Yeah.
The taxpayers of the district are aware of that you're getting a lot more done. These years than you have in the past.
yeah, and we're gonna push to keep growing on that and make sure we get everything covered as much as we can every year. We might have to put an ice cream truck musical thing on our fog trucks because everybody thinks they don't exist, but they are fully electric and dead silent now. We used to have one that sounded like a riding
That's the
lawnmower.
problem right there.
Yeah, but these things, you will not hear them
Very quiet.
from 20 feet away. You will not hear them.
A big speaker, projecting mosquito buzzing noise.
Yeah, yeah. And we have 5 lights on it and flashers. It looks like a crash site right out in front of your house. So I don't understand how people are still not seeing them. But they're definitely not hearing them.
Set up like a text alert system so that people, we're gonna be here.
At 3 in the morning, it's probably gonna. We do have on our website every night, we'll kind of update with what's going on, or every day, like we were in this neighborhood, we're gonna try this neighborhood next, but that's the hard part is that we can't say this street and this neighborhood are being done Tuesday night at this time, because we don't know until they get out of the truck. 50 mosquitoes on their face, we're doing it now. Nothing happens in 15 minutes, you move right along. And then the people in the neighborhood say, you said you were gonna do my neighborhood last night. Your guy pulled up, went like this for 10 minutes and left. So they don't understand that he's actually working.
Monitoring.
Yeah. But
There has to be mosquitoes in the air for us to get to.
there has to be
Spray
a
the
threshold
pesticides.
met. And people would love to just see us spray willy-nilly because I'll give you $20, you go in my barn.
The more the better.
Yeah, we just can't. Can't do that.
Sounds like a good idea, but I don't see any mosquitoes at my house, because I'm like, oh, it's gonna be dangerous, right?
No, yeah, it's all of our products have the stuff we put directly in the water has 3-day time. It's dead and gone after 3 days. It affects nothing but the mosquitoes. BTI is what we use. And mosquitoes have an alkaline-based stomach acid. So it has a chemical reaction that pops them open. And if you're not a bug that eats blood, or literally a mosquito, if you don't have alkaline in your stomach, then you will absorb that pesticide as an energy and consume it, no problems. With our fogging stuff, 3 hours of sunshine and it's gone completely. They have to be suspended in the air and flying through the fog to be affected. If they are landed on a tree and you fog that area, they will not get covered adequately enough because they are not flying through the suspended fog. So that's why we do it at dark, after all the other important insects lay down, go to sleep for the night. That's just how it works.
Thank you very much. And say I'll help, get the word out, but, let's get it, kind of rolling year after year with those,
Right.
a budget meeting like that. There'll be more people in the community sharing the good information that's going on.
Right, yeah. Yeah, more people need to understand that mosquitoes kill more people a year than anything else, pretty much. I had surprised the amount of people I tell in a year's period on vacation in Sun River about the number of deaths mosquitoes cause, and still to this day, they're completely blown away. They had no idea. And I've been learning that since I was a kid. I wasn't in mosquito control when I was a kid. And you need to know that mosquitoes, they kill a lot of people.
Do you know where they have a lot of mosquitoes? It's Washington DC.
Yeah,
Yeah, I was there having dinner outside and I saw this orange and green can. And I did not Ray or whatever you spray on
Yeah.
yourselves to keep the mosquitoes off. And it was at a restaurant, I'm like, oh,
At
and it
the
was true because
restaurant?
it kept, yeah. Somebody that was with me got bit a whole bunch. I'm like, yeah. So we should, you guys could have another job.
no, thank you.
Well, I think
No,
DC
thank
is just a 10 square miles of wetland.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was developed, yeah.
Listen, in the area.
Yeah, I mean, do you remember those cans that, people used to use? I mean, I don't
I use
think.
them all the time still. Just off, you're saying, or what?
Yeah, oh,
Yeah.
that's what it is. Yeah, haven't had a can of that in decades.
Yeah, if you move to Sun River, you will.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah,
Wow.
Well, and it's just, the springtime, hatches or
Yeah.
whatever it is. It just
last
comes
year
and
I
goes.
told you it will happen next year. I'll
Yeah,
tell
it'll
you
happen
again
again
right
next
now.
year, yeah.
Next year, it will happen again. It don't matter the amount of effort you put forward, that into spring, right early summer.
Yeah.
That temperature gets perfect and it's
All
gonna just be
water.
really going nuts.
So does citronella help at all? Citronella candles? To make them go away?
No,
Not
no.
really.
No,
No,
no, okay. just
it'll
wanted-
smell better while you're getting eaten, but it is
I'll
not.
be honest.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I mean, I've been saving my candles. But guess I won't anymore.
Mosquitoes don't develop resistance to BTI over time, do they?
we, in the industry, I don't think that they've seen that, but they absolutely will. Any product that you're using against a pest like that is going to develop a resistance if not treated correctly. If we,
The ones that
undertreat,
survive will be the
yes.
ones that are more resistant and they'll breed. Yeah.
we use a really safe product that has a really wide range of overdoing it and underdoing it. It's 10 to 20 pounds an acre. We usually use about 10 pounds, but if you undertreat, you're just building a resistance and eventually they will go past your product. But that's like with anything. Down the road, they'll have BTI 2.0 or whatever it is. They'll figure out how to, but it works so good and so fast and it's such a small impact on the environment. It doesn't kill anything else that I don't think they have time to build the resistance. You'd have to severely undertreat the area repeatedly to get a resistance built up on BTI because it smacks them.
Okay, well, we'll write that quote down. It smacks. Thank you so much for joining us today.
No, absolutely.
Thanks for your outstanding work. You actually double your capacity.
Yes,
This is
yeah, you're
good.
very welcome.
And I will not go down to Sun River then at night eating outside.
Yeah.
In the spring, in the spring.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See you next year.
Yes, okay, next we have a partnership update.
Yeah.
Afternoon. Yes, good afternoon.
Brenda, can you invite me in again? Sorry, you wouldn't let me click on it.
Trevor
Thank
Singer,
you.
DB Holcomb, Director of Community Justice.
Gwen Weisling, Executive Director at Bethlehem Inn.
Michael Hancock, Operations Director, Bethlehem.
I'm Trevor Stevens. I'm the Business Manager for Community Justice.
As you all know and support us too, Parole and Probation works to provide supervision, sanctions and services for adults on supervision for mostly a felony conviction. A big part of what we do in all of those things, another S word, which is stabilization. And you all, of course, know much more than the average person in the county about how we do that. It's definitely Commissioner do. But one of the ways that we have been doing stabilization for a long time with a particular population, although it's kind of been able to expand to others, is working with the Bethlehem Inn as a contracted partner to provide transitional housing in a kind of a more intense, slightly longer term program than their normal. I believe they're going to talk to you about that, but then sort of a person coming into BI who's not on supervision and not in this particular program would not receive, I believe, the exact program services and offerings and supports that BI provides for us. So Gwen and Michael are going to talk a little bit about that, but this is instigated just because we had received actually BI's annual report in June or July. And it was just such a lovely breath of fresh air to see such positive outcomes for a very high risk, high needs, vulnerable, risky population. And I had shown it to Eric, who was not here today, but he just thought that the commission might be really interested in about it. So we have a very brief, and you can tell us what's our time on the agenda.
Oh, the rest of the day.
Oh,
No, we actually allocated 30 minutes, so if you want to use it all, you may.
yes. So that's
Or you want
about
to use
it.
more.
Yeah, that's about it for me. They're gonna show you the presentation that they provided us and then take your questions in. Trevor and I are here for questions and answers on our side of the equation.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Dee Dee and Trevor and Tanner and Nicolene and the entire parole and probation team that we work with and have worked with since 2016. And this partnership began as we realized the goals were mutual. We really want this population to succeed. We want them to be integrated into a stable and return to work and housing in a way that may be more difficult for them coming out of corrections. And it has been, we were challenged with a very high goal of 50% housing, stable housing once they leave, which is higher than our normal population. And I'm proud to say that with the help of the partnership and working with the parole and probation officers, we have not only succeeded in that, but we have exceeded. And we as partners, but truly the individuals that are committed to this program that are have early release and know that they're being given kind of a new autonomy and opportunity. And Michael will speak a little bit to that program, but we'll talk here on just the snapshot in this past year. We have had 30 total intakes and 29 exits. We did have one repeat customer. So we had 29 unique individuals and their average length of stay was 61 days. That is a little longer than our normal average, which is about 30 days, 35 days. And showing the intakes during the quarters throughout the year just gives you that we have a good flow of individuals coming through the program. We currently have 7 beds. When we started in 2016, we started with 3, giving this a trial kind of pilot opportunity, and the commissioners approved that. Back then it was $20 a night because we were just testing this out. We currently provide these services at $31.50 a night, which is a pretty wonderful.
Oh, what a break.
Yeah, so what all does that cover, Michael?
I mean, that covers room and board and hygiene and case management services, constant connection with parole officers so that we're all in the loop with everything that's going on.
It's creating that network and that safety for folks as they're building their lives back and getting employment, housing and things like that. So we have on the right-hand side of the screen, 72.4% left for more stable housing when they exited, which is significantly above the 50% goal. And our average percentage is 34% to stable housing in our overall population, which is maybe a little of an underestimate because there are people that leave that we don't have the ability to contact them and find out. Working with individuals in this program, we have a really good idea of where they are and where they're going and how we can help them get there. Next slide. This is a version of our self-sufficiency matrix that I think is what really helps make this successful. And the domains on the left-hand side of the screen are where we look to find out where someone is at when they're entering into this program as a new resident. And the scores are marked here. This was derived from the Arizona matrix that was created and really gives a spectrum of when somebody comes, if they are unemployed, have no job, they score a 1. So oftentimes that the initial entry with housing, employment, income may be pretty low on the scale. If you have insurance, you score 5. So there's a way that people come in that gives a total score. And what we're looking to do is to create an increase in that overall score. Oftentimes people that are coming out of corrections do not have health insurance. So that's one of the first things we want to be able to do is get them enrolled and make certain that they have not just health insurance, but they're attending to any deferred health needs, dental needs and things like that. Anything else you would add to that, Michael?
Well, I think just in these basic categories, this is a good way for us to score self-sufficiency on the way in and the way out, but there are a lot of things that don't fit within this matrix as far as socialization and education that really do help better someone's situation before they leave, but it's not possible for us to quantify all that.
So this is the same self-sufficiency matrix we use with all residents, and we have selected these domains because in a short-term program, which ideally people come in on normal or in the general population, it's a 5-week program. And once they've gone through that 5 weeks, there's an opportunity to extend that with a maximum stay. And so this gives us something that we know we can work with individuals on, something like sobriety or criminal history. You're not going to change in 30 days. You're not going to change in 60 days. You'll make progress, but you're not going to have a year's sobriety in 30 days. So we selected those that we know our organization with our evidence-based practices are going to best be able to impact and help individuals in their direction as they live there and then move and transition into another housing opportunity. So this is the example in the past year. 79% of the clients in this program improved in that self-sufficiency score. And that is comparison to our overall population of 56. So 23 of the 29 made progress in their overall scores. And those scores are measured from entry to exit. And that average increase showed a 63% from an intake score of 12.28 to 20.7 of those 7 scores. So 20.7 is roughly almost an average of 3, kind of in the middle, if you know, consider you were starting at maybe 1 and moving up to 4. This is just an example of somebody that has exited. Basically, what aspects of this program do you appreciate? It's the case management once a week. It's very helpful and helped to hold me accountable. Great food, clean rooms, safe environment, great clothes, clothing closet, clean bathrooms, and above all, the staff at the BI made the place that it is. So it's that positive reinforcement. And what aspects do you think need improvement? It's great work. Keep up God's work. So we will continue always looking for opportunities to improve. Something else got cut off at the bottom, but it was a positive reinforcement of what is there that people have access to and are being given that opportunity to really thrive in, you know, coming from what was a little more restrictive environment to being given a better chance at success. And one last one, I enjoyed being here very much. People here were very nice, and Ken was going to come here today to share one of these success stories, but he is actually working right now. So I think Michael wanted to share just an example of one individual's story.
Yeah, so I think some of the key factors in these higher numbers for this population is one, that initial extended stay. Having that brings about some security that I think goes a long way in all arenas of life. And then one of these comments mentioned case management once a week, but for this population, we actually meet with them for case management twice a week. Sometimes that's informal outside of the office, just checking in. But for example, and we have a dedicated case manager that works specifically with all PMP clients, so there's continuity of service there. We had somebody that came into us recently, that came to us after 3 years of incarceration, no rental history, no employment, no savings. While they were with us, they did 15 case management meetings, or 15 weeks worth of case management meetings. We focused on housing ready, which is a list that we go through that make sure that everybody has all the documentation they're going to need when it's time to get into housing. Driver's license, social security, birth certificate, all of those things. That was primary health insurance, getting them connected with a dentist and a primary care physician, getting them connected with mental health services, connecting with our partnership with WorkSource and COIC. This person, we got connected with the library, got them a library card, got them doing that. We have a program that we work with, a partnership called Changing Patterns, that focuses on recidivism, got them connected there. Soon they were working, transferred to they left Bend and went to our program up in Redmond, which is a slightly longer stay, and continued case management there. Finally got a vehicle, full-time work, participated in our program up there, focuses heavy on participating and maintaining the facility and working with the community, engaged in all that. And after 4 months, left that program to full housing. So that just gives you kind of a breakdown of the work that we're doing and path that we're trying to guide them along.
And one of the plugs here in how we've worked so well in this program, and we've talked with Trevor about the continuation, maybe extended contract beds in Redmond at our Birch program, which is Bethlehem and Redmond Community Housing. And it is a even more autonomous kind of program, really giving folks, they don't have to be back by 6 o'clock, or, they have more freedoms and things like that. Those beds, this individual had exceeded the time, or had met the time, and had Birch not been available when we first started, not sure where they might have ended up, if they might have had to go to one of the other shelters and then come back as in the general population and not receive some of the directed services that we provide to to these clients. So we are just open to that possibility of additional beds in the future if that becomes available. It certainly has shown to really provide a benefit to these individuals and to this contract. And it has been wonderful working with the team that works with us. We can be able to pick up the phone and talk if there's ever any questions, as well as they come in and know where their individuals are and where they're at in terms of their progress and what direction they're moving. So anything you would add to our put you on the spot?
I don't think so, other than, you know, this population is complicated. At least half of the 60 people that came in really did not want to be there. I imagine, at least half. At that time, because it's, you know, they're leaving prisons. We try to focus on folks who are leaving prison. That's our primary population. In a way, that's a requirement for us to have the safe housing for someone to be released. So that's really, really important, especially if they're being released early with community supervision chance or downward departure chance. So we often, and, you know, they can create burnout, they can create cynicism, they can just create hopelessness. Like there's nothing else we can do with this individual if they continue to act X, Y, and Z, or if they continue to have these kinds of challenges. So I think together, the Bethlehem Inn has been really nice and amazing to kind of try to adapt to what each PO is saying this person needs. Sometimes it's not an easy fit. We really need that person to stay housed, and they are really pushing the boundaries of what the rules and regulations are at BI. And they've got to maintain that structure and accountability. And sometimes it doesn't work, definitely. But I've really seen an intention of both of our arts, our culture, our organizational culture, the rules and regulations that we all have to comply with that may not be exactly the same. They really, really work with us and our folks with them to try to make it work whenever possible. And that's kind of an unusual aspect, I would say, to our partnership with BI. And that really does, I think, come through our ability to have a contractual relationship. We're not just asking them to do a good deed, right? We're not asking them to change their whole structure because but we really have a good business relationship that sets out the outcome, sets out the expectations. When we have conflict, we're able to go back to that contract and say, I don't know if you're recalling a conversation, we had a person who we just couldn't understand. Why does she have to leave? It's gonna be terrible. She's gonna leave in the middle of a snowstorm. Come on, help us out. Yeah, I was like, look, we have this federal requirement that she cannot be here longer than X number of days. Oh, okay, we didn't realize that. Everybody can kind of simmer down, calm down, let's just see what's happening, go to the next best thing. That's just kind of an example of having that contractual relationship, how important that is. So I want to thank you all for approving that, you know, use of our state corrections funding in such an important stabilizing. Right? It's really.
So after they leave BI, who follows up with them? Does it go back to us? I mean, do they just go on their way or?
No, but we're seamless. We never let go of them. Until
Okay,
their
that's
term
what
of supervision is done.
Right.
BI may, unless they've got some good relationships or whatnot, but you know, most people are ready to move on to something more stable. I don't necessarily want to come back and be reminded of where they were at with BI.
Yes.
Our folks will stay with them until their term of supervision is done.
Okay, so are our folks still meeting with them when they are?
Yes. Yes. Oh,
Okay.
yeah, that's a
Oh,
great
yes.
question. They don't just drop off and say, oh, you don't
I
have to worry
know,
about.
I know. I was wondering like, okay, so they're at BI now and.
I don't
yeah,
care,
where are
yeah,
we
no,
at? Yeah.
No, in fact, they have to, you know, BI is right down the street from us, which is great. So I mean,
Handy.
our folks are there
Yeah.
daily.
Yeah, they
And
do home visits there. They literally will grab the client from our office, take them there, meet with the case manager. They'll do walkthroughs. I mean, it's a regular process there. The POs are regularly there at the BI. And it's actually really nice because if they're there, they can see other clients that may be there in the general population program. And so then that could just accomplish the more of the home visits and the visits with those individuals that maybe they couldn't have done if the individuals were scattered throughout the community. So.
And in addition to the POs meeting with them there's the opportunity for the POs to connect with our case managers and get that whole picture. And if I could just echo for a second what Gwen was saying about the importance of our continued supportive housing up in Redmond. This whole story wouldn't have taken place if there wasn't that second opportunity to go to. And we're operating at capacity in Redmond right now.
So what is capacity?
Currently, it's 30 beds.
30.
And in Bend, we have only a handful of beds available, and as the weather is changing, as you spoke of earlier, those are gonna be gone real soon, and I would love to see hundreds and hundreds of more stories like this. And so if there is ever the opportunity to have beds available for this population up there, we're 100% supportive of that.
And it kind of speaks back to, when we were talking about the limitations of our Bend facility being at that maximum amount, it would have, if we had got contract bed, that bed would be reserved and somebody could have been placed in that bed. And we're seeing the success from that program even better than what we have here.
So first off, a couple minutes ago, I was going to ask about the relationship between the case managers and the POs, so thank you for explaining that. But in order for BI to be able to support some of our clients in Redmond, do we need to change the contract? I'm not quite tracking kind of, you all were talking about why, how that would be a great opportunity, but like what would need to change in order to be able to?
Currently, we only have contracted beds in Bend.
Okay.
We don't have any in Redmond, but we would.
And our
work to
intake
provide
process for Redmond is such that, it's looking, we have an independent review committee that looks at, they're gonna see somebody that is currently unhoused, that has no shelter versus somebody that has shelter, but maybe exiting, so there is a scoring mechanism similar to the village and things like that, where there's a very limited number that, were the high demand going into those.
For community justice, it would mean something different having POs go to Redmond versus just down the street to.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, it remains a big, VI has its own offense criteria exclusion, so we can't serve every single person on supervision isn't able to go to VI, as you all know.
Right.
But I mean, it serves a majority of. It's a really valuable resource.
One other question I wanted to ask, so self-sufficiency matrix is really interesting. I'd be curious, so you run this program for a while, seeing a lot of clients come through. Are there, and you mentioned these, or I saw these 6 or 7 parameters. Are some of those stickier than others? I mean, overall, you want someone's self-sufficiency overall to improve, but are there parameters that are that you have seen more frequently improve with clients, and others that are, you haven't seen a lot of motion on? Or is every story different and one person does great on health coverage and the other one does great on employment? There's no patterns.
Every story is different. Some people aren't looking for employment. Some people have other things going on. So I think the components that really stand out to me with lots of room for improvement are mental health, healthcare coverage, safety. Those are the things that we can focus on immediately. And then if it's employment that is the need, we have the resources for that to get them connected with.
Right. Yeah, and one of the reasons I ask is just because if there's things here that are really intractable, then that actually kind of points out the need for other kinds of services in the community.
Certainly.
So that we can actually make progress on some of those parameters. Yeah.
And just like our partnership with Deschutes County, which is probably our longest standing partnership in helping us acquire the building we're in and doing the work, we have over 70 partner agencies. So we are not doing this alone. We rely on that and we help them understand that, once they leave Bethlehem Inn, there's a safety net for you to take with you, and making those connections rather than us doing it for them in, you know, all of our population, but, as well specifically in this area. So important.
Anything else?
Well, thanks for working together on this. There's a long history with Bethlehem and we've got a population to manage, so it's great partnerships that we're working with. It's exciting seeing those numbers so high for people getting housed and employed and back out into the community. So and especially, back out in the community, referring to prison to supervision to members. So
Most definitely.
great opportunities there.
Thank you so much.
So but I have a question then, if their numbers are actually better because of, with this group, is it because they're meeting with them twice a week? What is the difference that's making this group actually have higher success rate?
There is a very strong incentive that if they are not successful, not that we hold that over their head, but they have an option. If they are not successful, they could go back. So,
Right, I
that-
know, but I mean,
It's-
it's just like, I'm just wondering, like, okay. That needs to be a little more contagious for maybe the other people that are there.
There you go.
No, but
Good,
really,
good work.
Yeah, and I think to Dee Dee's point too, some individuals, ideally, when you operate a high barrier shelter, we serve a very important spot on the continuum from low barrier to high barrier. We're not gonna call them barriers, it's just more accountability. And Birch fits even further along that model. Some people come in saying, yes, I want this because it's really cold out. And, we saw this during COVID where people would say yes, and then they might not be successful in our program. And, some of those numbers are lower, as I mentioned, because there's not, we don't have data on everyone that leaves. They decide, okay, time to move on, and maybe just didn't feel like they wanted to tell us where they were going because they're very self-sufficient, but we don't know that. So, to your point, if everyone had a parole officer and we had enough case managers to meet with them twice a week, then, perhaps that would be more, but some people are actually working along and are pretty self-sufficient. And one meeting a week may seem like a lot for them. So, and we'll meet with certain individuals more often as needed. But it goes back to the fact that every individual is unique and we try and meet them where they're at so that we're not overly, checking up on them. These are goals that they set. We're not setting them for them.
well, the program that worked not at a high barrier shelter, but in order to get people to that shelter in Lane County was where they were meeting with them 4 out of 7 days of the week. And so it was that constant, like really helping and, I just find that fascinating that the more they're there, like, okay, let's get your birth certificate, let's get your health insurance. Just to make constant progress for someone who's been, let's say, frustrated by the system, I think it's really important.
Or isolated and not thinking that anyone cares.
Right.
And as a community shelter model, I think that's where Bethlehem Man really proves to those individuals, because there's a lot of informal meetings that do happen and checking in with folks. We do bed checks and we check in to make sure everybody is safe. And safety is an important aspect of somebody feeling like people care. And so these are the formal, it takes a lot of staff to be able to do that many number of meetings a week. And with folks that, are moving and changing, we, I think, have a pretty strong relationship with our residents and with our partners. So, yeah. With you, so we thank you.
It's a lot that's a lot of case management and staff contacts at BI, and they've got a parole officer too. There's a lot of content.
I will just end with that we are celebrating,
note.
pardon, on a happy note.
Yes.
We are, it was lovely to see you at the Central Oregon Villages on Saturday for the open house. That, was an example of someone who, saw how we operate, and they utilized a lot of what we do to help make a system, and that's just one more opportunity on the continuum now that people have to go to. Bethlehem Inn is celebrating the fact that we've been around since 1999 for 25 years. And it's because of the community and the partnership that's made that happen. So we will be celebrating with an open house at the end of the month, and you'll be getting more invitations.
You mean at Halloween?
Not that day. But maybe the day before or the day after.
Okay.
Yes.
Just wanted,
Yeah.
we'll be
If you'd
sure
like
to
to come
send
and
us
toss
that
your face,
email
then
because we'll
yes.
want to be
I
there.
would love to have. Thank you.
Yeah, when I was in East Adler a couple of weeks ago, honestly, I saw so many women out that were homeless. I could not believe it. And talking to some people in our community, they're saying they're seeing more women that are homeless. So Central Oregon Villages, it's great to know that they're offering.
And when we are full at the end, that is often usually all of our male beds. And we usually have a few women's beds, so make sure that people know that. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you. All right, so we'll be Halloween. All right, we're close. Yes.
That's it.
Thank you, Gwen.
Thank you.
Okay, United Way. Diana, Jen.
Afternoon, Commissioners. Sean Patterson, Strategic Initiatives Manager. I'm just here to introduce Diana Biscotti with United Way of Central Oregon, who's going to provide an update on usage of video library fund dollars.
Thank you, Jen, and Commissioner Chang there and phone and the rest of the county staff. Thank you so much for the opportunity to come before you today to give this update on the video lottery dollar allocation. I'm the Regional Executive Director at United Way of Central Oregon. And we've had many different types of partnerships with Deschutes County over the years, but and United Way of Central Oregon has been around for 70 years. But I think this partnership in particular has had some really impactful and monumental impacts. So first of all, I want to thank you for the allocations that you've provided over the years and for the impact that they've had. I actually got an email recently from the ED of the Diaper Bank of Central Oregon, which was one of the recipients of the video lottery dollars through our grant making process, which I'll describe. And she was reaching out to ask if there was any more funding. She was awarded, Diaper Bank was awarded $7,500 through the 2024 grant allocation process. And she said, because of the grant we received from United Way, we've been able to serve more families in Deschutes County and develop partnerships with the health department by working with the nurses who do home visits. Diaper Bank of Central Oregon delivers free diapers to the nurses and they take them to the families. And then I just heard from Jericho Road today, and you were emailing separately, and Don heard that I was coming before you and wanted me to also mention, he said that you have a longstanding relationship with Jericho Road. And
Oh, it's longstanding, yes.
Yes. So he wanted you all to know that the recent award of $7,500 from United Way has been used exclusively to purchase food, which is served through our Jericho Table Meal site, open 260 nights of the year. Our weekend food packs for students, averaging 160 packs each month of the school year, and our homeless camp outreach program, which provides more than 2 tons of perishable and non-perishable foods each month. The funds we receive from United Way have been critical in supporting our efforts through food provision, and we are deeply grateful for this unique and effective partnership. So I was pretty happy to get 2 testimonials without even asking for them just recently in advance of getting to present to you. So I did send out a memo, which I think
I think everyone has one, but I printed off a few extra if anyone wants it. Yeah, I think.
Wonderful. So assuming that you've kind of read through that, I thought it would be a little bit helpful for me to go through kind of how our process works for a little bit of context in terms of how we utilize and then allocate the funding. So historically, how it's worked is that each year the Board of County Commissioners has very generously allocated a certain portion of the video lottery dollars for United Way of Central Oregon's Emergency Food and Shelter Grant, which we call EFSG program. Also, at the same time, we are entrusted by the federal government to allocate dollars that come from the Department of Homeland Security, from FEMA, for emergency food and shelter through the Emergency Food and Shelter National Board, which we call the EFSP program, which is not complicated at all. So we basically run the two different processes concurrently, and that's for a number of different reasons, which really allow us to leverage the video lottery dollars more effectively. So we are more able to leverage the video lottery dollars because it helps us to better distribute the resources more effectively throughout the community to the agencies that can better utilize the funding in specific ways. So our process, basically, we will put out an RFP for both the EFSP and the FSG funds. They are for agencies that are working in food, shelter, clothing, diapers, feminine hygiene products, and other kind of emergency, non-crisis, emergency and non-crisis support services for Deschutes County members specifically. And then we work really closely with the agencies, sometimes before they apply even, to make sure which ones of them would be able to meet the very strict federal reporting requirements of the EFSP dollars, and which ones of them are delivering really important and meaningful, impactful programs, but would not be able to meet those federal reporting requirements because they don't have the staffing or resources to do so, or they're doing work that actually doesn't even fall into one of the categories the federal program requires, and it's very strict, and they've got percentage time or percentage dollar allocations that have to go to different categories. So then we coach the agencies about which program to apply for. Then we convene a local board of volunteers that are made up of folks from Deschutes County that have expertise in social service provision in our region. And then once we receive the applications, everybody reviews them, we all meet, we go through them all, we identify funding priorities for the local board for that funding session. So for instance, it could be families, it could be folks who are less able to physically get themselves to access resources, could be housing. In this case, housing was a high priority. And then we meet and we review the applications, and then we ensure that there's no overlap between the county video lottery dollars and the federal dollars. And then there's a full voting process that happens, and then United Way kind of handles the whole rest of all the administrative components. So what I had mentioned in the memo, I can't emphasize enough that having access to both the county and the federal dollars at the same time allows us to strategically allocate those resources across the community so that nonprofits basically receive the right type of support for the capacity that they have. And it really allows us to meet some critical needs that the federal dollars are not able to touch, and also ensuring that the federal dollars are allocated more efficiently. So without having the counties support through the video lottery dollars, that pot of money available for the agencies that don't have that high capacity would be more limited, and they wouldn't be able to deliver the services. The video lottery dollars also allows us to leverage the real expertise of the folks who serve on the local board as volunteers. They know the agencies that are applying, they know their strengths, they know their weaknesses, they know the clients that they're serving, they know which agencies are duplicating efforts with other agencies, and they know all behind the scenes goings on, of which there are many. So this year, the local board that allocated the funding was made up of folks from local government, nonprofit direct service organizations, religious affiliates, healthcare, and folks representing homeless advocacy. So this year, so in 2023, you voted generously to allocate $80,000 to this work, and then we allocate that in early 2024 alongside the federal process. So this year, the agencies that were funded, which are in your memo, our Assistance League of Bend Church, Boys and Girls Clubs, Council on Aging, Central Oregon Villages, which was just mentioned, Diaper Bank of Central Oregon, Family Kitchen, Friends of the Children, Home Mourn Network, Jericho Road, Nativity Lutheran Church Food Pantry, and then the St. Vincent de Paul's of Redmond, Lahaina, and Bend. I did take a look at the overlap because I know that was something that came up before. So of all of the agencies that were funded through the EFSP and the EFSG, the only overlap directly was with the Meals on Wheels program. So that's the only program that received funding from both pots. There was one agency that received funding from both pots, but for two specifically very different programs. So that was for Friends of the Children.
Friends of the Children.
And they received money from Deschutes County for capacity to increase child enrollment. And the EFSG funds were for winter clothing for the kiddos and their families. I also looked at the overlap between the video lottery dollars and the EFSP, the federal dollars, because I actually didn't put that in the memo, but I was interested in checking that out. And I found that 3 agencies did receive both, but in all cases, the funds coming from the county were supporting FTE. And the funds coming from United Way were directly supporting shelter bed nights. And those were for Cascade Youth and Family Center, which is GBRJ, Bethlehem Inn, which we just saw, and Saving Grace. So this year, the board allocated $60,000 to the same process. We anticipate going through the allocation process in early 2025 in conjunction with the federal process. Because there's a little bit less money, we'll have tougher decisions to make in terms of what agencies get that money. And the smaller agencies may have less money available to do that work. I will say, these food, shelter, and clothing services really do play a vital role in economic development. So by addressing the long-term basic needs of individuals in Deschutes County, they really contribute to a more stable, productive, and inclusive economy. And that's for a myriad of reasons, including enhancing productivity, reducing poverty, reducing instability, reducing inequality, increasing skill development, increasing access to education, and then reducing even healthcare costs, fostering innovation, attracting investment to the region. And I think a lot about, I can't remember what it is called, the economic multiplier effect, which is basically the idea that when people's basic needs are met, they're more likely to engage in economic activities, which creates upward cycles of economic growth. So by addressing the barriers to participation in the workforce, fostering education and skills development, and promoting social stability, these specific ongoing food, shelter, and clothing services not only improve individual well-being, but also drive sustainable, inclusive economic growth. So the video lottery dollars that this board of county commissioners has allocated to United Way for the EFSG process allows us to leverage other funds more effectively to do exactly that. So thank you so much for the opportunity to update you. I'm happy to answer questions about any of the funding pots, where they've gone, who's used them, and how.
When this is evaluation project, what is that?
Oh, you know what? I realized the spreadsheet I sent had a line drop off in a couple spots. So the evaluation project was the kids center.
Oh, that's the kids center?
Yeah, and then the one that said emergency meals was Bethlehem Inn.
Oh.
So there was a formatting. So, like the lines were condensed on my spreadsheet. I'm sorry, I didn't catch that earlier.
Okay, so that's kids center. Okay, I know I was going to evaluation. I was thinking like, is that some kind of fee or something? Anyway, okay, I'm glad I asked that one. And then I heard today on the radio that Friends of the Children got like almost $1 million through the feds, I think. But then they're putting it into Portland, some center in Portland.
Yeah, well, Friends of the Children is kind of like a chapter model. So each of them are kind of their own nonprofit agency.
But they've done such a phenomenal job here, going to La Pine. They've really spread out their program. The one in Sisters has been there forever, but the other one has grown a lot.
It really has. And United Way, through our community impact grant making, which is a separate process, provided some of the seed money for them to start up here in Central Oregon. Like 7 years ago.
7 years ago, yeah, that's how long they've been here. So that's she's actually on the Rotary board, or she's on the Rotary in Redmond.
Rachel?
Yeah, yes, I saw her like 2 weeks ago, and it was, and their fundraiser just raised, I believe, $200,000. So they're really, people are supporting the need for kids starting at age 5 through high school.
I'm a convert of the model. I think it's extraordinary.
It really does seem to work, and if you can pick the kids that are more likely not to succeed and turn that all around, it's great. Yeah, I thought that was unfortunate that all that money is going to go to Portland, but anyway, hopefully it will help the state program out. Oh, this is great. I so appreciate you coming today.
I appreciate the opportunity to share. It's exciting. It's nice to kind of benchmark where we're at, where we've been and where we're going as well. It's nice when you're in the thick of it to actually take an objective look and feel proud of the work.
Thank you also for this breakdown of where the funds, where the lottery dollars that run through United Way and where our service partner funds go through overlap or mostly don't overlap, because that's, I mean, that was a big concern for me, was just making sure that if there are organizations that we're trying to help, we're not just inserting a whole other layer of administration in between.
Absolutely. And I think, moving forward for the next allocation process, we will certainly keep the video lottery dollar direct allocations in mind as well when making the allocation decisions.
Well, yeah, emergency food, clothing and shelter is definitely the buzzwords that I think of when we're doing this video lottery allocations, and United Way's always been there as a partner. And you've just kind of, confirmed for me that you're able to take that bigger picture look, not just you, but the system that we have set up, because we're making some choices by the relationships and the knowledge we have, and United Way can help really balance out the needs and the services going in the community. So thank you very much.
Thank you. And I think the local board deserves a lot of credit. They put in a lot of time and effort. And there's a lot of discussion about what the priorities need to be for any given funding cycle. So there's a lot of thought that goes into that.
Thank you so much, Diane.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
Okay, we're now to item number 4. I think Whitney's ready to do that one?
Yes, I am. Thanks, Commissioners. For the record, Whitney Hale, Deputy County Administrator. I have a discussion item for you today, a review of some proposed policy changes to the county's cell phone policy. I'm not seeking formal action from the board today, just feedback on these proposed changes. Following today, our plan is to bring this back to you on a consent agenda item. So I'll go ahead and walk through kind of an overview of what's included in the changes, what prompted the changes, and take any questions. So this policy went into effect in 2016 and it hasn't been updated since it was originally drafted. Obviously, since then, technology has changed a lot. The way that we all use our cell phones has and continues to change a lot. And so one of the components of the updates we're capturing here is just sort of those updates that have occurred across the technological landscape since 2016. Also in 2020, our internal auditor at the time, David Gibbons, did an audit that focused on cell phone utilization at the county, both with respect to county issued phones and also with the stipend program at that time. There were a number of recommendations that came out of that audit, and part of these policy updates is intended to satisfy the outstanding audit recommendations that have not yet been completed. So there was a long list of questions that in his audit, David said the county should really consider, these 15 factors. And so we've had a robust process with departments and offices in trying to grapple with those questions and have really landed, I think, in a good place with the policy updates that are before you. I think at a high level, the language that's included in these updates attempts to provide some more structure and framework to how we set stipend levels on the stipend side, how we go through annually and evaluate who's receiving, do they need to continue? There's a little bit more of a process in place for that. I think that work is occurring today, but it's now memorialized in these policy updates. On the side of the house where departments are issuing phones to employees, there's also some more factors in terms of that are outlined in these policy updates. Things like evaluating how a department will manage phone updates. We all go through that process in our personal lives when your phone can be renewed for a newer model or when it's time to trade in. So really thinking through some of the administrative and also cost saving options that are available. Really memorializing expectations around making sure there's process in place on both sides of the house for county issued devices and also for stipends. And then I think the last thing at a high level, and I'll turn it over to you all for questions that you may have, is that with these proposed changes, we're proposing both the policy name change and also a structural change. So the update will take this from a cellular phone policy to a mobile device policy, sort of acknowledging that broader application of how someone might be using a device. And we're also proposing to reclassify this from a building policy to a general administrative policy. I honestly couldn't tell you why this was originally drafted as a building policy, but it's certainly not my expectation that Lee or his team manage the county's.
Phones were part of the building.
Yes,
back in the
might
day.
have been one. We're proposing to broaden this out a bit, but with that, I'm happy to take any questions that you may have. Oh, one quick thing before we get there, though. I noted in the staff report that these red lines propose removal of the stipend levels, and that's probably the thing that departments have had the most interest in and that staff will have questions about as well. This is the form that we use for starting, stopping, or changing a mobile device stipend, and there's 3 different thresholds and criteria for kind of how a stipend level is allocated. Our plan is to, with these proposed updates, remove the dollar thresholds from policy and maintain them in the form that can pass those to the board just so they have them. That will allow us to update them if they're needed a little bit easier than coming back to you for formal policy updates. I think as the years pass, we doubt that the stipend levels we set originally in 2016 will hold forever. So that just gives us a little bit more flexibility. We're engaging our policy advisory committee right now to evaluate current stipend levels, and that'll be a second discussion that we're having kind of outside of this process, but we chose to sort of, with these updates, pull those 2 pieces apart a little bit, and that'll certainly be work that we're completing with that group this fall. So with that, I will turn it over to the board for questions.
So you actually left the allowance at the same number that was in from 16.
For right now, that form is gonna stay as it is, but we are engaging that policy advisory committee, which is made up of representatives across the organization to have a discussion about those stipend levels and if they're the right levels. So that's work that we're gonna ask them to come together and have discussion about.
I used to spend a lot of time on the phone with my phone company, because remember when in the dark ages, they used to charge you for like every call? Oh, it was a nightmare. And I was always like renegotiating my bill.
Yeah.
I think it was on a monthly basis.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Thank goodness it's all just, you can talk as much as you want now.
You can.
You can actually with Verizon go out of the country, or at least to Canada, I think in Mexico, without even having to call in now. And it used to be they would charge you like, what is it, $1 million if you made one call.
Yeah, we acknowledge that this is a policy that probably is going to continue to get updated as time evolves, because things like that and other factors, even how we manage and can manage county devices, it's just all changing pretty quickly.
It's a whole nother line. Oh, yeah, the bills would, the message, or the envelope would be so thick, and I'd go like, oh, no, not that again. Yeah, it's really fun. And old Verizon, no, actually it was AT&T then, so. Well, I'm glad that we're finally doing something from 2020, right? Is that what you said?
Yep, this has been on the list, and again, these policies that touch all departments and offices sometimes take a minute to implement, but it's certainly important to us to make sure that we're managing those sides of the program as effectively as we can. So we're hopeful that this memorializes some framework that really assists departments in doing that.
Any other comments?
Yeah, going from a cell phone to a device, I mean, that's definitely the technology path, and it happened a while ago, but getting us up to speed here, because I remember at this SIEC committee I'm involved in, they have a broadband committee, and I kept asking, well, what's broadband? What are we referring to broadband? But it's really, everything's digital through the LTE system going to your phone. It's just audio stream, a website, or an app's data path, so it is a device, and it's just a digital connection to anything in the world now. But I'm supportive of these changes.
Yeah, I mean, we don't need to make a motion or anything.
We'll bring
It'll
it
be
back
on
to you on
consent.
consent. Yeah, thank you, commissioners.
Thank you very much, Whitney. Other items? Friday morning, I was at the Governor's Advisory Council on DUII. And it was here in Bend. It was incredibly well attended. And the really good news is that the state meeting for this group will be in Bend on April 3rd and 4th. And Chuck Hayes, who is the chair of the group, we were having a conversation about what's going on, and hopefully if they can get Kevin Sabe to come and be at that event. He's nationally recognized, served with Presidents Obama and Bush over drugs. And Chuck said Kevin likes to talk a lot, so hopefully we can bring him in and get some really worthwhile press over what they're doing. They're talking about considering dropping the legal limit down to 0.05 from 0.08. I mean, that's one of the things they're looking at. And yes, meth, alcohol, and marijuana are in a lot of systems. Anything?
Last Thursday, Lapine 2045 plan, technical advisory committee, community meeting. So I was able to go to that in the afternoon, so city staff and community members all together talking about that. So that was the afternoon. Then they had an evening meeting kind of open to the public. So just the process is happening for the 2045 Lapine comprehensive plan. COIC board meeting was last Thursday also, so we got everybody together. It was well attended. We celebrated the teacher of the year from the COIC group. She came to that meeting. So we'll just give her a card and pat in the back. Bob Townsend is the COIC transit director, so he was introduced there, so that was good. We're excited about that now. And he's looking to get the routes, people more engaged and ride the bus. See how it goes. Let's all work together on that. And then Citizen Assembly, I was able to speak with Anthony Brotman Friday morning to kick off of their second weekend, just thanking them for their efforts, and we'll be receiving the recommendations at COIC. It's going to be the first kind of outreach to a public body, and then Commissioner Chang and I were there yesterday afternoon at the conclusion of their process. And it was great to see your son involved with the process. He was the youngest one there, huh?
He was one of the six in the pool in the 18 to 24-year-old bracket range, which they selected 4. So, when they ran the lottery on that day, he had a pretty good chance of being selected. And so he kind of dedicated 5 days of his life to it.
Yep.
Yeah, when those staying till the very, very end of that process, I got to get a hard copy of the draft recommendations from the civic assembly process. I'll be really interested for us to, as a body, the Board of Commissioners as a body, to receive those recommendations and evaluate them. And there were a number that sort of overlapped with things that we're already doing. For example, there was a recommendation for Park and Rec to set up something that sounded similar to the drop, but expanded. And my first thought was, well, maybe that should be a partnership project between the county and Park and Rec, as opposed to something that asking Park and Rec to do something completely new that they haven't done before. So just it would be great when we receive those when there's a session set up to receive those recommendations, for us to have county staff that are involved in things that relate to those recommendations to also be here, and we can have a broader discussion both about what we're already doing, and also kind of what else we could be doing to address the recommendations from my only other thing that I'll mention is that on Friday morning, the Oregon MPO consortium had a meeting and just talked about their policy goals for the upcoming legislative session. public transit, stabilizing Oregon's, transportation funding formula. Basic stuff.
Also, let's see, Thursday afternoon, COAC had an executive meeting and the people on the executive team are going to do an evaluation for the STIP funding. So that's something that's due in the next couple of weeks. We're supposed to get that email. And then I did mention to Nick this morning, William McCormick gave me a really excellent idea regarding human trafficking along the 97 corridor and how we need to get safe phone numbers in bathrooms. And Nick immediately thought that public health could pull it up and hopefully, like the stickers you see in the bathrooms at the airport, if we could do that sticker like all the way up and down 97. Human trafficking is really, it's serious now. All that massage parlors, the whole bit, it seems like it's really, it's in the news. So anyway, I thought that was a great idea. Thank you, Nick, for following through with public health. We'll see what they say. And then I did go to the Central Oregon Villages open house on Saturday. And the good news was they have a couple empty shelters at this moment. And then Sunday, I heard of a woman that can move in. So like, you know how that goes, right? I'm sure they're not gonna be open for many days. And then I did meet Kathleen, the new director, who had just been in that position for 3 days. She is a 30-year long-term Bendite. So very excited about it. And she seems to be someone that's gonna be reaching out to people to bring them in for their program. So this is good. And I did also hear, and I was at the collective lunch the other day too, on Thursday. And the Veterans Village is still having problems getting their social center, that remodeling project completed. Now, I was working on the greenhouse. It's been sitting on the ground for a couple of years. It seems to be roadblocked somehow, but JW told me that, yes, we need to get that finished. So I know, it's the city. So somehow I've got to coordinate that. And the collective luncheon where they honored Bill Shaw and Connie Drulanger was there. She was honored as one of the other people that have done a lot of really wonderful things for this community. So it was great to see all that. And it is a little cold in the pine. I did talk to Bob and his wife.
Yeah, it's been 18 in the morning.
Sisters is usually right there with you.
Yeah.
I know. You're winning.
But that's
so
why there's
far.
no more flies.
Yeah, that's
So we
true.
got through mosquito season, bee season, and now fly season, and it's all done now.
No, but my geraniums got sprinkled on it and then they froze and now they're dead and I didn't get them moved to the house. It's just like, and they were so beautiful, like going, wow, that was fast. So anyway, next time I will move faster. So any other, no executive today?
We were all three at the
Oh, yeah.
Old Mill Apartments, formerly Old Mill Inn and Suites. Grand opening this morning. Really massive site. And very exciting that the MAC and all the partners involved in that were able to shepherd that project to completion. There'll be, I think they said
76.
76 units.
Yes.
Available ongoing. I believe that somehow through the HMIS system, they have blocked out a portion of those for China people who are currently out China Head Road. So
According to Holly Jukes, it's 25. So that's what Holly told me on Wednesday. And the other really great things, I did get to personally thank Hayden for the Squire Motel in Redmond. That's almost completed. That's gonna be workforce housing. They're doing landscaping now and it is gonna look so amazing because it is the gateway to Redmond. And that will be hopefully opened up by the 1st of January. So that was, yeah. I was so glad. I said, I was so glad you're from Redmond, that he really cared enough to, they said it's gonna look like mini Hayden homes when they get done. So it'll be nice, but thank you.
So another item here, there's a subcommittee on water, wildlife and fisheries. Field hearing tomorrow. It's all about It all depends on water, examining efforts to improve Central Oregon's water supply. So this is Congressman Bent's committee, subcommittee meeting here at the fairgrounds tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock. I was asked to testify, and kind of the concept is recreation, sense of place. I'll be presenting the fact we just published our comprehensive plan. Bobby Bruno is going to be there from the Warm Springs Tribe, Craig Harrell from COID, and other folks, I guess, also. So that was just came up. So I'll be in Redmond at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning for that subcommittee field hearing.
Yeah, I heard about it through the news. I wasn't invited, but I intend to be there as well.
Great.
So do we have to have it cited then? And it is? Is it cited? Is it on our calendar? Thank you so much.
Nobody asked me to speak, so I don't think it's an issue with having to publicly notice it.
It's not even if we're all three there.
We'll just add it to the.
Yeah.
Just to be safe, I would say we should add it. Thank you very much. Great.
Okay.
Thank you. So meeting is adjourned till Wednesday morning at 9 PM. Thank you, Brenda.
Yeah.